Hello and welcome back to the Dota 2 Asian Championship here on HeflaTV. This is going to be game 2 of a best of 2 series between Dream Gaming and HyperGlory Team. Again, your casters are going to be Grandis V and Mr. More Rage, please.
Yeah, definitely very convincing game one. As you mentioned, was close for quite a while there, but I think three things happened for DG there. K played really well on his axe. Demons hit some very influential static storms, one in the bot lane as the SMJ picked up his BKB, and one in the mid lane to cover that three-man chrono from Icy. And then finally, it was almost like a pub game in that someone just picks Juggernaut. They don't do anything necessarily flashy, but they get fed over a couple of kills, and all of a sudden there's all this momentum, and the Juggernaut's just way too big to deal with. So DG looking good in game one.
Definitely, it felt very tight. Even though it wasn't the most exciting of games and not the most rotations, it really felt like they just didn't make very many mistakes, and all it took was one or two, or HyperGlory Team, get caught out of position or walk down a ramp that they really shouldn't be, and that was pretty much it. Even if they had the IO Tiny combination to fall back on at the end of the game, they just didn't have buybacks to back it all up. That said, we are going to move into game number 2. With the Juggernaut banned out, the first couple of picks coming out from either side are going to be Vengeful Spirit Tide for HyperGlory Team, and Dream Gaming will snag up the Axe and Skywrath Mage.
Yeah, gonna go right back to that axe. Probably not for K in this one in the mid lane. I feel like HGT's laning just made it a really good situation for them to run that axe out of the mid lane. But either way, they'll pick it up again. Tidehunter, not a hero we've seen all that often. I mean, he does get banned out fairly often, but he has been falling out of favor just a bit the rise of some other heroes commences. But definitely a very strong hero at that. There will be the Ancient Seal to deal with him momentarily, but his Kraken Shell will remove that if they damage him on top of it. So not the most effective counter to the Tidehunter.
Yeah, definitely not. They are going to have the defensive swap to deal with the Mystic Flare, also from HyperGlory Team. Both teams have nice tools at their disposal, although neither of them are super synergistic against each other, or with each other for that matter. Just nice heroes in general to build your team around. The next couple bans are going to come out with Skywrath Mage, or rather Shadow Fiend. Again, going to be taking some ban hate in the second stage, as well as Troll Warrior from Dream Gaming and Doom and Viper from HyperGlory Team.
Yeah, the first three bans from DG actually exactly the same from game one. They're taking out all three of Air's heroes here, and so perhaps that is their strategy coming into this one and allowing ZSMJ to get whatever he likes. He's one of the more flexible heroes in the or flexible players in the scene in that he has a very wide hero pool. So looking to focus on banning his heroes would be difficult, but definitely worked out in game one. Air didn't look super comfortable on that Tiny, despite them finding a couple of good kills with the relocates.
Yeah, they weren't able to aggressively split push and put enough pressure on the enemy team to really take them out. And I kind of feel that it was kind of due to the fact that that Faceless Void and Tiny just didn't synergize much at all together. Even if the Chronosphere was good, the follow-up 90% of the time just wasn't there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that front. So maybe a little bit more of a drafting issue than Air being comfortable on the Tiny. Also, as you mentioned, not able to get any split push momentum going. And that was partly due to the fact that they were controlling the tempo of the game with that axe for DG. So well drafted by them. Either way, gonna eat into their reserve time quite a bit here, thinking about what to couple with this Skywrath Axe combo. Works much like the Skywrath Legion and the Skywrath Centaur, and that does set up for Mystic Flares. But as you mentioned, HGT also with already with the swap to deal with that. So
yeah, right here, I don't think you could go wrong with the Dazzle if they do want to pick up one of their other supports. Witch Doctor potentially is some sort of deny pick, but also just a really solid support to have at your disposal too. Instead, they'll go for something completely different. We're going to see a Dusa.
yeah, interesting pick there. Usually you do build BKBs against Tidehunter. Medusa never really builds BKB, so we'll see how she fares through the Ravage. Is she able to get off a Stone Gaze to counter initiate that, though? Should do fairly well. Also, Stone Gaze does increase physical damage taken if it fully procs on enemies, so that synergizes fairly well with the Axe. Also, Axe going to look to take a little bit of the attention off the Medusa, and that should allow her to get off quite a few right clicks in these engagements.
At a certain point, if HyperGlory Team don't invest in some very heavy mana management, and by that I probably mean an anti-mage, or maybe even one of their sports go for a Lion or Nyx Assassin, this Medusa as well as Axe is just going to be such a tanky frontline to where it's almost impossible to kill, and in that sense I'd really like to see them go for the AM here, as it hasn't been banned out.
Yeah, definitely very good into the Medusa. Also, you could build some of those perennial diffusal blade builders. Maybe something like a Ricky isn't bad, but axe or Ricky into an axe probably not the best decision. So I really do like the AM as you mentioned as well. Nothing wrong with picking up that one position this early. Ancient Seal is pretty good versus Anti-Mage, but probably will get up that BKB fairly soon after his Battle Fury and should be able to purge that off more often than not.
Yeah, and even if not for BKB, if he just goes for the standard item build, the Manta style is going to get a
Mhm.
lot of usage this game. Either way, Hyperglory team going to take quite a bit of time for this next pickup. Maybe they are going to shy away from that AM. If they're going to go for it, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer. Outside of that, there are plenty of supports, and if they want to pick up a support slot, Witch Doctor feels like it's probably the best one for them, but instead, they're going to go for the Ancient Apparition.
Yeah, so this is something that was banned out by DG. They picked up the Venge earlier on in Game 1 as well, and DG banned the AA, so perhaps something HGT likes to run fairly often. Maybe they're a little tentative going into that AM into the Axe pick, and that's somewhat warranted, certainly, but they don't have too much choice against this Dusa, and I feel like that AM is working super well with their lineup. Unfortunately, they did pick up that AA now, so perhaps they are looking again for a Faceless Void. Ice Blast does combo up pretty nicely with that, and it doesn't look like Dream Gaming will be able to pick up a Faceless Void unless they put this Axe in the mid lane again.
Although it's not the most traditional way of playing the Void, if they do pick it up, I'd love to see a Manta-style Diffusal Blade to deal with Medusa's Mana Shield inside the Chronosphere. It can work pretty well.
Yeah, it does increase your effective DPS pretty well, and Medusa otherwise very, very tanky if you're not able to burn that mana, as you mentioned. So will be interesting to see what HGT goes for. DG probably looking for another support to combo up their Skywrath Mage with. I wouldn't mind something like a Lion. The extra disable works pretty well with the Tide Hunter here, but they will look for some extra initiation on top of the Axe, and they're going to pick up the Clockwork here. So unless this Clockwork's running out of a support role, it looks like we will see the Axe probably in the safe lane with the Dusa mid, or perhaps they swap those roles.
Yeah, or they could go this really greedy, just send the Axe towards the jungle and pick up yet another core. And that is an option. We'll just have to see what Hyperglory team pick up and whether that's feasible given the lane situation for them. They have a lot of good setup for the Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare with the cogs as well as the call coming out from the Axe. But then again, if they do get the Medusa Stone Gaze onto them, Skywrath Mage doesn't really contribute much.
Yeah, and it is going to get chopped down pretty quickly to the Stone Gaze if that ends up happening. The physical damage amplification there is going to do a lot of work with the Axe and the Medusa. Clockwork does have some solo pick potential on these supports thus far, but the Tide Hunter pretty tanky, probably not too worried about that. And they will opt for the AM, as you mentioned. Definitely don't mind this choice. Is a little bit risky into the Axe as well as the Skywrath, but as you mentioned, getting up that Manta early, not going to be too worried about that Ancient Seal.
Yeah, I think there just really isn't anything that compares with them. I think they're going to be able to get away with the lanes. Clockwork, Axe, pretty much any combination of these heroes aren't going to be able to put enough pressure to stop an anti-mage from farming.
Yeah, definitely. He could even solo 1v1 them and does do fairly well against the Clockwork, even if he gets up a PMS or even a Magic Stick early on. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind that choice from them, but we probably still will see him farm up that safe lane with his Vengeful Spirit and AA behind him. They could look to go for an aggressive try and perhaps contest this Medusa's farm. Undying still in the pool. Probably won't see it here from HGT, but I do expect some sort of space-creating hero to come out for them, at least for this mid lane.
Yeah, it feels like it is going to be a mid laner for them, and well, what that's going to be is another question entirely. If they want to go for even more mana burn, an Invoker wouldn't be bad if they go for Questwex, and even if they go for the Exhort Invoker, I'd quite like seeing that hero picked up by them. A lot of global ganking potential, decent setup, and a good mix of damage and control.
Yeah, he's very good into the Clockwork as well, but we're going to see a super unorthodox pick from DG in the Ursa. Perhaps he builds into a Hex in this one. That'll be very good against the AM. Ursa, one of his issues is he is kited around fairly easily, and HGT definitely do have the tools to do so with the swap from the Venge, the Icy Vortex coming out from the AA, the Blink away from the AM, of course, the Ravage. So I do worry a bit for this Ursa's ability to get some good right clicks off, but with the Stone Gaze and the Call as well as the Cogs there, if he picks up a Blink of his own, he'll be able to get in and do quite a bit of work on these HGT heroes.
No matter how these lanes work out, it's going to be interesting to see how Dream Gaming shuffle around these heroes. It really kind of feels like it's just going to be a jungle axe mid deuces, safe lane farming Ursa, and then Clockwork towards the off lane. But they do have a decent amount of flexibility. Razor going to be picked up by HGT, and no matter who the Razor is facing in mid lane, should have more or less an absolute field day.
Yeah, is very good into the Clockwork as well, able to get that link off. Axe does want to stand still most of the time too, so static link going to be invaluable to Air's Razor in this one, and definitely here we've seen fall out of favor somewhat here, but will be certainly a presence and definitely can be considered a space creator and something that is going to soak up the damage for the AM through the mid game.
Yeah, well, that said, let's go ahead and introduce the players on the Hyperglory team side. We are going to have Kaka playing on the Vengeful Spirit, pretty hot on the Ancient Apparition. Icy on the Tidehunter, ZSMJ on the Anti-Mage, leaving last but not least Air playing on the Razor.
Yeah, and for the side of Dream Gaming winning game one, they're going to jump into game two with Demons on the Ursa, so it looked like it may be a jungle Ursa. K, once again, going to pick up that axe. He played it very well in game one. Wave is going to be on the Medusa with Kier playing up the Skywrath Mage, and Clockwork going to take towards the offlane. I believe in English the name is CNMGB, but either way, he should have a fairly good time in this lane. Don't know that there's too much kill potential unless he makes a major misstep.
Right now, he's just going to drop down his ward, and that's going to be all she wrote. Vengeful Spirit going to poke her head into the Roche pit to spot out if any shenanigans are going on. With an Ursa, it's always something that you kind of have to keep in mind, although unlikely.
Yeah, I don't have anything like ice armor here or any extra units, so definitely would be very difficult. No vampiric aura as well, but either way, with the axe on their side, a little bit tanky earlier on, definitely something to check out for HGT. And DG, certainly considered the underdog, may look to pull something like that. But either way, very greedy lineup in the first place. I would have to agree with the decision not to go into that Roche pit.
Definitely. Well, it is just going to be a straight-up jungling Ursa throughout this game. Mid-axe, again, going to make a reprise for Dream Gaming. K did a good job in game number one, and, well, Hyperglory team, they're going to shake up the lanes as well with the mid-Tidehunter. Not what I was expecting at all.
No, definitely not, and they will put an aggressive tri-lane centered around the anti-mage. Definitely expected the supports to be with the AM, but Razor 1v1 versus Clockwork, a little peculiar, and they probably expected this axe mid, so I don't mind the choice from the Tidehunter. Generally does very well versus melee heroes.
Both teams are going to throw their carries towards the offlanes, although it's not going to be the traditional aggressive offlane where they're actually looking for kills. This is more or less just a secure farm. Clockwork might end up losing his life here if they catch him out with a magic missile, but for now Venge is just going to be stacking up some Ancients to accelerate the Tidehunter's farm even more. Getting lane farm and having Ancients on top of it means that Icy's well on his way towards a fast Blink Dagger, even though it's very early on in the game.
Yeah, they did rotate over after perhaps being privy to the laning decisions of HGT, so I feel like it's just a bit of a dodge from DG and allowing their Medusa to get some more farm, but something to note is that this allows HGT to look for ganks on demons as they are pretty accessible to that dire jungle, so it'll be interesting to see if they make some movement with Pretty Hot as well as Kaka's Vengeful Spirit.
Yeah, for now, the Ursa has just been left alone, finding himself as level 2 already, and is going to be presumably just rushing towards that Morbid Mask. And yeah, we'll just have to see. If left completely alone, Ursa can jungle pretty effectively, but if anybody as much as breathes on him, things get really sketchy.
Yeah, and then he starts to fall off quite heavily, but at this pace he should be able to hit an early Roshan as well, unless HGT are super diligent with looking at the pit, and we do expect them to be, but being in this aggressive tri-lane, they will have quite a few heroes on the opposite side of the map at most points, so Demons will probably have an opportunity to retreat into that pit if it shows itself.
Vengeful Spirit going to swing all the way down towards bottom and just run pulls. This is a great way to deal with the Medusa Skywrath Mage lane, is they don't really have any way to outright punish this. Medusa's not going to be contributing anything to actually killing off or interrupting the pull camp, and with 21 damage still in, not going to be farming that well either. The status quo is not looking great for DG. The only benefit is that they do have that Ursa farming.
Yeah, that's really the only thing going well for them at this point, as you mentioned. Otherwise, lane's looking really good, and that is the weakness of Dusa. She's not the best laner. Mystic Snake is pretty nice to drain mana and keep spamming it out, but definitely against a hero like a Razor, once he gets up that first point in unstable current, will be able to retaliate pretty heavily to the spam of this Dusa and is considered generally a lane dominator. Also, Kier has seemed to abandon the Medusa and started to stack the Ancients perhaps for that Axe or the Ursa or even the Dusa as she gets her farm up later on.
Yeah, and even without it, it can be a joint affair where they farm it with the Axe or the Ursa and let the Dusa get the last hits. It really depends on who they want to accelerate. The Axe currently doing very well in this mid lane, kind of to be expected up against the Tidehunter. He is able to get physical damage through on the Tide, even through Kraken Shell with the spin.
It will be interesting to see if we make it to the late game who has the edge. Generally, you do favor the team with the Medusa, but AM very strong versus the Medusa. The Tidehunter Ravage is always pretty impactful. Razor, not a bad late game hero, as mid lane Icy is going to get called up here, but just a little harass from K. But they do have somewhat of a quad core for DG here.
Meantime,
so
up towards top, Chilling Touch going to be used to drop this Clockwork very low, but with the Mystic Snake and one more right click, it's actually going to be the Dusa to drop first blood. Anti-Mage still hunting, but can't find him. The Clockwork salving up, should be okay here. And ZSMJ can't go for much more, especially since they bring in the Skywrath Mage. Unfortunately, for DG, only level 1 on the Sky. Not going to be enough to get a kill on the Anti-Mage or even get close.
Yeah, so no Ancient Seal there, unfortunately, but ZSMJ juked a bit by the Clockwork, and a nice play there from him. So things are looking good thus far for DG. Demon's also farming well, as you mentioned. He's smoked back over with his Morbid Mask into the jungle and should be able to pick up a very early Vlad's if he opts to pick that up. Of course, not totally necessary anymore with Fury Swipes not being an orb effect.
After that first blood towards the Dusa, it's going to make up for quite a lot of this early game discrepancy that they have found themselves in. It's going to secure yourself those phase boots for wave, and that's going to make laning so much easier for him. DG are looking pretty nice, except for this bottom lane, I suppose, which is going to be pushed away since HGT are left completely alone here. They'll be able to take this tier 1 tower.
Yeah, it looks like it will be sacked. Actually, TP's come in now from the Clockwork. It's not quite in deny range, though, so good awareness from HGT, and they will probably just drop down this wave and look to push it in shortly hereafter. But already the level 4 on the Clockwork does have some potential to defend it up with the cogs, deterring the wave until they're brought down from the tower.
Morbid Mask now up for the Ursa. That means he's able to jungle indefinitely without having any interruptions and can go into the Roshan pit very easily. Although it's not the fastest of Roshans, it is pretty stable.
Yeah, if you channel up that first overpower before walking in the pit so that you can get 2 off quickly, it's pretty reliable even if you get some unlucky bashes. But Demons, yeah, left unchecked. As you mentioned, he'll pick up his level 5 here, and that second level in overpower will definitely allow him to walk into the pit pretty freely. But HGT gonna look to wrap on this Clockwork and then aggress on this tier 1. They will walk into him around the corner. Easy magic missile. He'll not be able to get the cogs off, and he will go down here. He gets the cogs off, but they're not gonna matter. We'll see if anyone's mana is burned on the way out. But everyone pretty careful, and Air, along with his comrades, gonna be able to bring down this tier 1. It looks like they'll give over that last hit to ZSMJ. And he will be able to pick that up on the anti-mage.
Yeah, for now, outside of those 2 kills, it's been very passive. Not huge amounts of rotations towards either way. The tier 1 tower up towards top is probably going to suffer a similar fate to the one we saw down towards bottom, although definitely not as quickly.
Yeah, we already have Icy rotating over here. They've given Air some space to farm in the mid on the Razor. He's already picked up his level 6, but opting to max that static link up against the Axe and the Clockwork certainly warranted. Kaka, with an invisibility rune, will be able to drop a magic missile into K, but they figure he's a little bit too tanky to bring down thus far, and it looks like he will look for Demons, so they will know that he is missing from the jungle fairly soon. It'll be interesting to see if they can get to this Roche pit before he brings it down.
He is going to prep it up now. Immediately pinged. Demons is going to keep on going for it, but this could be disastrous. The SMJ over on the side. He has a blink and can pretty safely walk into this pit to scout it out. Now spotted. Demons going to be hit once, twice by the anti-mage, and now is probably going to be brought down. If they have any other backup, which they don't, Demons is just going to be forced away. Plasma Field going to throw him up by the Razor. Oh, not going to kill him off. Not enough damage, but very close.
Yeah, Kaka not hanging around in the jungle. Probably could have flanked him with a wave of terror there, but either way, they definitely thwart the attempt to grab up Roshan, and this is going to stave off his farm a bit. Mid lane, concussive shot, rocket flare goes out towards Air, but he'll be able to get up to the high ground, and with those phase boots, they won't be able to chase him down.
Definitely. And, well, still 1-1. Ancient Persian is going to pick up some slack for his experience up towards top as that tier 1 tower is being pushed. And getting that extra ultimate online for Priya is going to be very important for the team, all things considered. But the tools are up for both sides to start looking for engagements, although neither one really seems comfortable in doing so.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you feel that this is a Lincoln Sphere game for the Dusa here. I mean, there is a static link as well as the swap and the magic missile, but other than that, I probably expect something like maybe a casual Yasha into the Manta Scotty build for the Dusa.
Yeah, I don't think Lincoln Sphere really feels like it's super effective this game. It does block some skills, and it's a nice item to have for sure on Dusa.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, just going towards other items would probably be the better call. Icy going to mop up his Ancient Stack, and that's going to get his Blink Dagger for sure. Mid lane, Blink goes the way of the Clockwork, and Cogs will bounce him back. At least for now. It's a Midas game for this Dusa after picking up the Aquila. Even though it is a reasonably late Midas, they'll feel comfortable taking this late, especially since they have the Ursa as well to fall back on for some extra carry power.
Yeah, and the trump card, of course, against the AM is that call from the Axe, as well as the Cogs with the Battery Assault. So they are going to have to get some work done on the Razor in this one in order to take some weight off the back of ZSMJ. But speaking of ZSMJ, he's farming fairly well. Full treads with the Ring of Health as well. 650 gold in his pocket. So should be a decently timed Battle Fury in this one with that early kill under his name.
Demons going to be playing things very aggressively as he jungles up that Ancient Stack previously prepared. He's going to be dropped low, but nobody is there and they don't have any intel of this. Or do they? Radiant Vision of Demons. Why aren't they coming to kill him? Blinking from the AM would be easy peasy.
Yeah, and Mana Void is there as well from ZSMJ, but perhaps he figures that by the time he rotates over Demon's backs, and he will do that now. There was no tier 1 tower, though, so he probably could have walked there from the high ground and would have had kill potential, but Air going to pick up a Midas of his own in the meantime, and it looks like both teams gearing up for a late one.
Definitely. Midas count currently from both sides is going to be 1-1 on the Dusa as well as on the Razor. I don't think there's really anything immediate that's going to impact the game that the Razor could pick up, so I think the Midas is completely fine. They have the Titans poised behind the Razor with the Blink Ravage, and now they are going to blink or look towards a smoke towards top and put an end to Medusa's free farming days. Let's see if it's going to succeed.
Yeah, giving Icy that mid farm really does pay dividends here, at least in terms of his farm and levels. He's already level 8, almost 9, and we'll see if they find fruit with the smoke gank. It looks like Wave has been caught out. He'll get Icy Vortex and jump forward. Ravage committed right away, and definitely well worth killing off that Dusa and giving ZSMJ a little bit of a farm advantage at this point.
It would have been the Dusa kill either way, but Mana Shield wasn't activated, making that so easy for them to take with only 33 strength on the Dusa at this point.
Yeah, Ice Blast going to be thrown out towards the pit looking to scout out demons, but it looks like Kaka's Vengeful Spirit does go down in the meantime, and it looks like Hookshot not even used there from the Clockwork.
Yeah, not necessary. It looks like it was just run down with the Battery Assault. I only caught the tail end of that as Vengeful Spirit drops into the ground. And, well, they do still have that potential to look for kills, but we're still 2-2 at 11 minutes, and neither team has really made any effort to really change the status quo of this game. DG are getting a pretty similar amount of farm, although the slight advantage is going the way of Hyper Glory team. DG, they're farming on 3 heroes, whereas HGT are mostly just farming on 2, although they do have that Midas on the Razor to catch him back up.
Yeah, it looks like Demons will finally amass into the pit. He does have some support here in the form of K, smoked up with a Blink Dagger, so they are looking to cover this Roshan 11.5 minutes in, and Demons should be able to chop it down fairly quickly now that he does have that 3rd level in Overpower. However, Ice Blast is going to fly through. It's not going to catch on Demons, and Kaka silenced up and brought down. He did scout that out with the Wave of Terror, but is picked off for his troubles, and Demons should be able to finish this off as he does get bottled up from K.
Definitely. Unfortunately, his stacks of the Furious Wipes were reset after them going for that kill, but more than enough. They are going to find a Blink Call into Pretty on the sidelines and a Link as well. They bring down the Ursa with both the AM and the Tidehunter making a 1-for-1 trade right now as ZSMJ is silenced up, but now after that wears off, we'll be able to blink towards the right side of this fight. Cog's going to bounce back. Icy, and now with blinking in with the axe, they should be able to make a turn. This Tidehunter doesn't really have anything left in the tank except for one Anchor Smash. Currently silenced up, ZSMJ is going to blink onto the backlines looking for the Skywrath Mage, and he'll be able to blow him up even without spending that Mana Void. It's going to be 2 for 1.
Yeah, not a big fan of those cogs there from the Clockwork on DG. It isolates the Skywrath Mage, and he didn't catch the Tide in it as well, so K had to use the Blink forward, and unfortunately wasn't able to get both the AM and the Tide in that, and that gives away the Skywrath Mage, as well as them not finding the kill on Icy. A little bit too tanky, already sitting at level 9 when that engagement happened.
Definitely 4-4, things really are still sitting at the same state of the game. Even though Roshan was dropped pretty low, he's going to start regenning up, and we still haven't seen that come into play, which is really unfortunate for DG. It's one of the big reasons why you pick the Ursa, and they just haven't been able to get that up. Demons right now, it's looking like he's going to be saving up for Blink Dagger as his next item, and that's a pretty solid choice. However, inside the river, looks like we might be setting up for a pretty large skirmish as they catch out Vision of 2. Hookshot in, going to connect onto both the Tidehunter and the Venge. Cogsing them both in. They are going to get the Ravage onto the Clockwork and look to make a turn. They bring in Gaka as well. They will be able to focus down the Venge as Skywrath Mage brings in the last hit. DG as well as K are still looking to continue forward with the Anchor Smash. One more right click onto the Clockwork will be the end of his life, and the Axe is also dying. Bounce back on the Cogs means that Icy is going to have a little bit harder time of actually chasing him down. One more Blink and Gush should be the end of his life if he wants to commit towards it. He's going to guess a little bit wrong direction, but now with the Blink Gush, that is going to be the end of poor Clockwork. The fight continues on the left side of the map as Pretty Eyes being right-clicked down by the Medusa, deciding to get one out attack into the Courier and not actually complete either of the objectives. Anti-Mage is also inbound, and Medusa is still right-clicking away. The Courier's being inbound. They just need a little bit more damage, but Medusa decides against it this time. And, well, it's 6-6. We're still pretty even. The ancient apparition somehow surviving over towards the sidelines.
Yeah, and actually the Clockwork was able to kill off the Tide. He was able to bottle up Cog him in and get the battery assault off, and Icy just not able to get that last attack animation off. He brings on the Tide, so very well played from him. Either way, as you mentioned, 6-6, and everything pretty much going to stagnate, but the beneficiary of that last little skirmish, certainly DG in the sense that they did have Wave farming away while that was all occurring.
And yeah, it is going to be really nice for them. And they are going to go into the Roshan pit. This time they're going to bring a little bit more than just demons. Though the Ancient Apparition Blast scouting this out, as HGT have been really diligent about using that one, means that they can't actually go for any more. So yet again, Roshan thwarted, and he still has yet to fall.
Yeah, the pick just a little too obvious, I guess, but as you mentioned, good diligence from HGT. There's SMJ also being able to farm up his full Battle Fury now. We'll be able to accelerate past Wave's Medusa for the next few minutes at least, and a smoke up on the back of HGT, but no Ravage here for 35 seconds, so they still are going to be hard-pressed to find this fight. However, Roshan really low, and they could find some fruit here. Ice Blast is going to fly through. It'll kill off K if he doesn't pick up the Aegis, and the Axe does go down. Clockwork next to fall underneath the Cogs. Demon is here to look to clean things up. He's going to get chopped down, though. That's just the Aegis coming from the Eye of the Storm. Stone Gaze is there, but Air turned the other way. He should be chopped and chased down. Plasma Field will get off. It's going to hit big on Kier, and from the high ground, Kaka going to drop a Wave of Terror. Jump up, call onto 2 from K. He should be able to spin down Kaka here, and he will be able to chop him down with the Ancient Seal there, but Eye of the Storm going to finish him off. Ravage onto the low ground, onto Wave. Anchor Smash will finish him off as well. Demons is going to be the next to fall. He's been linked up. ZSMJ going to come in, find the kill there. Huge engagement going DG's way. That's 4-0 plus an Aegis.
An absolute disaster. That's even more than that. That's a dieback on the Axe too. There really could be anything worse happening there. They didn't expect our Hyperglory team to actually go into that Roche pit after the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast landed. They thought that would be enough to pull them back, but after scouting with that Vengeful Spirit, the Axe getting so low, he's forced to get back in that fight. And then HGT, they just clean house. ZSMJ getting a little bit more on top of that. He's going to be working towards the Vlads now, and things are really starting to look poor for them. DG, although they really wanted that Roshan, and their team definitely is capable of doing so, they probably wanted it just a little too much. That's going to tip the scales very heavily in the favor of HGT.
Yeah, they're looking to save your rares here, folks, in this second one. That'll allow Pretty Hot to complete up a Midas as well, so he'll be able to get that level 2 Ice Blast online, and we've seen already how effective it's been. Level 3 Ice Blast will be out in a timely manner as well. Air making a little bit of item progression towards his BKB here. He's got 1100 gold in his pockets as well as the Ogre Club in tow.
Well, for now, things for HGT are looking up, but then again, CSMJ isn't entirely fight-ready, even though he's 3-0-0. Mostly, those have just been him mopping up after the fight proper has been actually completed.
Yeah, it looks like Icy will give him his Ancient stack here, as he's already got the Blink and the Force up on the Tides. ZSMJ looking to mitigate what you just mentioned in not being totally fight ready. He does pick up a full Vlad's here. That'll be nice for the team, as well as him giving him some extra armor and that lifesteal. He will be able to at least 1v1 most of these heroes from DG.
Yeah. And even more if he has some backup behind him. Let's see. The Tidehunter Ravage on cooldown for 30 seconds means that HGT can't immediately go for any of these tier 2 towers, but they'll just keep up the pressure right now. There's really nothing that they desperately need to do. Getting this Manta Style up for ZSMJ is probably their next high priority. Manta Style is going to be put on hold as he goes for the Medusa. With the Stone Gaze TP out, Deuce is going to survive, but AM's completely forcing her off of the lane for very little committed.
Yeah, and he does bait out the Stone Gaze as well. She's also going to have to walk out from the base using that TP back. Does have 2 components of the Scotty ready, and it looks like it'll be an actual Scotty rush here from Wave on the Medusa, but well played by ZSMJ to stave her ability to farm. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, they're going to pick off the Clockwork with the trio of the Tidehunter Venge and the Razor, and they should translate this into a pretty easy tier 1 push.
Dire's Courier somehow falls as well. Wait. Oh, it doesn't. What was that message? Dire structures have been fortified. I must be super tired. Sorry about that, guys. It's not great. Either way, Anti-Mage is going to take away that tier 1 tower and TP down towards bottom, immediately coming out from the Tide as they're looking for the fight. Blink forward. However, he's not able to get off the Ravage since he is immediately silenced, and that'll secure the TP out by Kier. 4-stab forward. He's looking for blood. The blood that's close is the Ursa, but is that really the kill that they can look for? With the Quelling Blade as well as with the Blink, Demons is going to make himself elusive.
Yeah, so a little bit of dire vision here. Gonna allow. I tried to die on the ground. Damn you, Dota TV. But a little bit of vision there from the dire side. Gonna allow Demons to juke into the trees there. He may even look for a solo kill here, but definitely not an ideal target in Icy. And not sure why he hasn't opted to TP out quite yet.
Yeah, neither am I. He does have that available to him. He's just going to be chilling. He's found himself a nice little nook, and he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Who needs to farm when you found a good spot of shade under the trees?
Well, absolutely. HGT, they are going to get that Yasha up for the Anti-Mage, and he's extremely accelerated his farm, currently 2,000 ahead of where Wave's sitting on this Medusa, and his items really feel like they need more, just because those extra stats on the Medusa aren't going to be a reliable way to keep Wave safe and on the front lines, because of the raw amount of mana burn. Super late game when we're talking about a Medusa that gets all of her slots completed. Can contest up against Anti-Mage, but at this point, it's just not the case. Looks like Ursa finally leaves his little nook, and he's going to backdoor tier 1 tower with it. So I suppose that was the plan.
Yeah, Icy did get hook-shotted by the Clockwork in the river, going for the rune, but was able to force up to the high ground. Did have most of his mana burned off, but he's already picked up an Oblivion Staff on the way to his Refresher Orb, and looking very good on the Tidehunter. 3rd overall in the net worth chart, even above Air's, Razor, and K's Axe.
Definitely. Well, we have kind of stalled out where we really haven't seen much action. I'd like to see HGT look to take a tier 2 tower for themselves. They have some decent aggressive vision looking up towards top, so I think that's probably the likely candidate for it. Although, we'll probably wait for that Manta Style on AM. There's really nothing pressing them to do it, but I think they have the teamfight potential to do so.
Yeah, the BKB does come out for Air as well. Very nice pickup for HGT. Will allow him to be fight ready. They did scout out the Medusa here. This will be a huge pickoff if they're able to swap her back, and Wave will be scouted out with the Ice Vortex. Magic Missile going to be there. Ice Blast as well, and that's what will shatter her. So, well played. Very big pickoff. 50 seconds with no buyback. Perhaps they'd look to take this tier 2 in the mid off the back of that kill.
Not something you necessarily expect as a Medusa, but when nobody's farming down towards bottom, when it's being pushed into the tier 2 tower area, getting suspicious definitely is there, and that ward placed by the Radiant supports earlier on paying dividends here as they get the highest priority target that they can. With the axe so low on the sidelines, can he actually do anything? He's going to drop a Battle Hunger, but right now K probably just needs to book it. It's a free tier 2 going the way of HGT, as they're also able to defend bottom as they drop ZSMJ to pick up the farm there.
Yeah, I would have expected a 4-stab forward from Icy with a Gush Anchor Smash onto the Axe there, but I guess just not too willing to jump that deep behind enemy lines despite the Medusa being down, and they'll just be content with taking that tier 2 down as ZSMJ did have to TP back and defend that bottom lane against Demons.
Definitely. Well, 13-7, HGT have found themselves a nice lead this game at about 10,000 in the gold experience, skyrocketing above 13k. Era's farming up the jungle with the Razor ultimate, and Anti-Mage farming out all of the lanes, they really couldn't be happier. But I suppose that they probably shouldn't be sitting on this farm too much, although their strength relative to the enemy team is really high at this moment. If Medusa gets another 2 major items, things could get really sketchy, or if we see Ursa picking up like a BKB Hex or BKB Basher.
Yeah, Full Scotty does come out now for Wave at about the same time as the Manta is delivered for ZSMJ, but sitting at 14k net worth, he's looking very good, and looks like he will need a pause on the Anti-Mage for a moment, but either way, Pretty Haas already picked up 2 components of his Aghanims, and he's only 1300 away from completing that, and that 17-second duration on the Ice Blast will be very detrimental to DG's ability to survive these engagements, especially with the lack of BKBs thus far on their lineup.
Yeah, at the moment, currently, he's just 1,000 gold behind the enemy Axe that was laying towards the mid lane, which is quite impressive. Ancient Apparition is one of those supports that you do want to get a Midas up just to ensure that you get level 11 and your Ags, and these are going to come out at really nice timings for the AA this game.
Yeah, definitely so. Most of the other supports in the game pretty poor. Kaka playing the really hard 5 for HGT, but for the DG side, they do have that jungling Ursa, so he's been able to grab a decent amount of farm up to this point, but the Clockwork not really done much so far in this one, and he doesn't have any item to progression to speak of either.
Yeah, he's found some pretty nice jump-ins with the hookshot and the cogs, but the follow-up inside the cogs is pretty darn limited, especially if you find more than one hero. You have the Mystic Flare when it's just one hero isolated when you have Kier close, but yeah, the solo kill potential just really isn't as good as he'd like it to be. The Ancient Apparition and the Venge are just a tad too tanky.
Yeah, Kier, speaking of the Mystic Flare, Kier is level 6. 23 minutes into the game, and everyone else on the map is at least level 11, so rough times at Ridgemount High for Kier, and he's not going to be super influential in this one. He does finally pick up that 3rd level in Ancient Seal, so he at least has that 5-second instant cast silence to offer.
It is one of the risks of playing with Scarlet Mage. Although his early game potential is really strong, if you do get behind, you can get super far behind. Up towards top Anti-Mage, bursting down the Axe solo. I wasn't expecting to actually take that jump, or more than anything, I wasn't expecting the Axe to stick around, but not able to get that blink away as ZSMJ finds a quick assassination.
Yeah, he pretty much just walked up to him with the Manta, and he was able to burn down the mana before he got the call off, and Mana Void there to finish the job. Beautiful solo kill for ZSMJ, 2,800 gold on him as well, and getting very scary 24 minutes in on this Anti-Mage.
Definitely. He's currently sitting on 3,100 gold, and that's going to be presumably just towards some big major item. Honestly, he could afford to go for just a straight Basher. I don't really see DG killing him before he kills them. But he could always just go for something a little bit more cautious. Going for Heart, he doesn't really need any more damage at this point. The mana burn is pretty much carrying itself at 24 minutes in.
Yeah, with the Ravage at the ready, I do expect HGT to jump into this Roche pit fairly soon. They can leave Pretty Hot outside of it as well. He's going to fire an Ice Blast top lane towards the Medusa, but it looks like Wave will back off for the moment, and the Ice Blast is going to whiff pretty much completely.
Yeah, they are going to shy away from going into that Roshan pit since DG would have vision of it. Both teams have great ways to scout the Roche. Between the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast, the Wave of Terror, the Clockwork Flare, there's plenty of ways that both teams can get intel, and there's plenty of farm on this map for ZSMJ to go for without taking that risk, even though I think they're more than capable of taking a 5-on-5 fight inside the Roche pit.
Yeah, I feel like they can just leave Icy outside the pit. He's got a blink and a force, so the Ravage should be just fine, especially considering no BKBs available for DG here. But either way, as you mentioned, they can farm up a lot more of the map than can DG at this point, and not willing to throw away their advantage to the initiation power of DG.
Yeah, it is going to be a heart for the Anti-Mage, but even more important is now that we're running with a double Ravage for Hyper Glory team, things get a whole lot scarier. Tier 2 tower up towards top should be a very easy objective, and right now I think even if DG know about a Roshan attempt going on from HGT, they'll be able to get a double life secured for their Anti-Mage.
Yeah, Icy doesn't have enough mana to use a double Ravage at this point, being as it is level 2. He is going to need to pick up a set of Arcanes before he can do that. He can bottle mid-fight, but his full mana pool right now just a little bit short.
Yeah, 225, it's going to be 450 plus the 375. It is just a tad short. He is very close to it with the wand charge as he can to it, but I think just investing in a pair of arcanes is nice. Down towards bottom, hookshot. Looks like a solo kill onto Kaka, as DG finally are able to find something with this clockwork. It's been a long time in coming, and, well, they might lose the clock in return with 4-staff. He's looking for the TP attempt. He's not going to be willing to commit the Ravage for it. He doesn't need to, with just the Gush and the Anchor Smash to seal the deal, and that's going to open up Roshan. For HGT, even though they're down their bench, they have their Tidehunter with double Ravage.
Yeah, definitely a worthy trade for DG. Unfortunately, finally they find, or for HGT I should say, finally DG finding something there, but still HGT finding a better or more valuable return kill, and they're just going to commit 3 into the pit for now, currently leaving Pretty Hot outside the pit for an influential AA blast, and he's got the Aghanims ready 27 minutes in, and that's certainly very scary for DG.
It really is. Quelling Blade dropped on the floor is going to mean that ZSMJ is able to pick up that Aegis for himself. He is also going to have that complete heart flying to himself, or yeah, on the career right now. And DG are going to be hard-pressed to actually kill off this AM. From here on out, he can go for a straight Abyssal Blade, and I think going for anything else would be a little bit too cautious, maybe. But even so, he's doing quite a large sum of damage, hitting for about 220 with just his raw physical damage. And then you have the Manta Cell Legions as well as the Mana Break to keep into consideration. And when you're dealing with Medusa, Mana Burn is everything.
Yeah, 2300 HP, no reason to go for anything but that Abyssal. I'd have to agree with you there. BKB, pretty underwhelming in this one, as he does have the Manta to purge off the silence from the Skywrath, and everything else that he would be worried about in the hookshot and the call does pierce magic immunity, so definitely would expect that build from ZSMJ. 19,000 net worth on him. He's 5k ahead of Dusa. Wave not farming particularly poorly, but those couple of deaths definitely did cost him, as Pretty Hot is going to go down, and that is a killing spree going the way of demons, but still not going to stave off the push from this top lane from HGT.
Even though they get that last kill with the Ursa, for the most part of this game, it has felt like Ursa really has been more or less a non-factor. I think they could have gone for most other supports and gotten more out of the pick. They wanted to get that early Roshan, and in the end, they pushed the issue one too many times, costing Ursa 3 lives there. With the Manta Illusions down on the table, ZSMJ going to look to put some pressure on this tier 3, and with the Aegis, they really have nothing to fear. Wave has a BKB, so maybe he'll be able to survive, but really doesn't bother him at all. They're going to jump in with the Ursa, but a blink away from the AM is going to keep him just fine, and worst comes to worst, they have Kaka with a defensive swap.
Yeah, they're going to need K to jump in with the Ursa, but if they do commit that, that's an easy Ravage for Icy, so things pretty easy for HGT in the sense that they can just throw up ZSMJ with this Aegis on the high ground as the battering ram, as soon as his Manta comes off cooldown and this next unit Wave comes through. So things looking very good now for HGT, and they're just going to leave Icy very far back, postured up before a Ravage. Ice Blast is going to fly through now from the AA. Looks like it may hit just on Wave's Medusa here.
Even though the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast doesn't land onto too much, they still get the tier 3 tower and now go to the melee barracks. DG need to do something. They'll try for a jump in with demons, but jump in from Duya, or rather from Icy. He's not able to get the Ravage off, instantly silenced, but still ZSMJ is just not taking enough damage. DG aren't able to do anything about it, and for now it's just wait for the next creep wave, rinse and repeat from Hyperglory team.
Yeah, and Wave was forced into a BKB here. Can't remember the last time I saw a BKB on a Dusa. Already baiting out the 10-second charge there, and that's almost like 4th K of wasted farm for this Medusa relative to ZSMJ's anti-mage. Cogs are going to be dropped here, but only going to delay the inevitable. ZSMJ with the Manta at the ready now should be able to chop down this Rax fairly quickly.
They'll jump in. Axe going to miss his call, however, and that's the end of that. Melee Barracks going the way of Hyperglory team, and they'll be able to get a little bit more, as Kira on the Scarth Mage going to be cleaved down by ZSMJ as he casually blinks forward for the last attack after going for the ranged barracks, and that's your full set of barracks, and without being forced to even think about using the Aegis on ZSMJ, they'll swing towards mid. They still have that double Ravage at the ready, and that seems like it's enough to frighten DG from actually engaging.
Yep, Air with the Aghanims is going to chop down this tier 3 pretty quickly with that Eye of the Storm. A quick blink out from ZSMJ as well. He's still got the Aegis available. Swap is going to be forward from Kaka. They'll get a magic missile onto K. He'll get chopped down very quickly, and that'll be ZSMJ taking the last hit on that. This will be a melee Rax going down as well. They're going to have to commit to this or they lose all their structures here, but ZSMJ still sitting on that Aegis, just standing in the front lines, absolutely immortal on this anti-mage. 4,400 gold as well in his pocket. fights, and they'll find 2 lanes of racks with relative ease, even going to go towards the third one, axe down for 30 seconds without buyback.
Why not? They haven't used it tied under Ravage, and now they are going to onto Wave. They have the second one going to unleash it onto this Medusa. Even without the Manta style available, they still drop this Medusa down incredibly low. They dropped a Mana Void on the BKB target, but that doesn't matter. GG's called out by K, and that's going to make this best of 2 be 1-1. Even though on the sidelines they might lose a little bit more, for all intents and purposes it is over. If you can't defend your base, you lose the game. It is Defense of the Ancients after all.
Yeah, I think you made a great point, and that Demon's almost more of a liability than he was an asset to the lineup. They committed a little too much, too often early on to that Roche, and HGT are going to be able to overwhelm DG to tie up this series 1-1.
Well played to both sides. That's not going to be it. However, we are going to have more series coming up shortly, so don't go anywhere. If you like the casting you see here, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and here on Twitch at HeflaTV, and the VODs will be uploaded to youtube.com/HeflaMilk. If not, right after this cast the next day at the latest. So if you want to share these games, that's the way to do it. I'm Grandis V, and I've been joined by More Rage Please. I don't think I'm going to be joined by you for the next series. I should have Mr. Blackadder on the call, but as far as this cast is concerned, any final thoughts?
Now, well played by DG in Game 1, but HGT showing their true colors and what fans expect from them in Game 2. A little bit of a draft misstep, perhaps, from DG. Either way, well played to both teams, and thank you for the support and joining us, guys. Be sure to stick around for more DAC and some SLTV Pro Series tomorrow.